talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, thanks. Good.
Hi, Tom.
How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal Edge. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico DeHaan and Paige Clark.
Well, good morning and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced, natural, wild world. And I'm Paige Clark.
Yes, and I'm Nico DeHaan, and we do this to recover our natural health as well as regaining our rights and our freedoms. And it's a beautiful day here in downtown Clearwater, isn't it?
Yeah,
79 degrees.
79 degrees, perfect. And we hope you're having beautiful weather where you are. And we're also taking your questions about anything that you'd like to discuss or get clarity on the show. You can reach me at paige@tfnn.com.
And Nico at tfnn.com. And we're also taking your phone calls at
877-927-6648.
So last show, we were talking about distilled water, got a lot of different comments from people, so I just want to clarify a few things. And actually what we did, Paige, in the beginning, we talked about Dr. McCullough, who's completely against it, and Dr. Wilson, who is completely for it. And so there's a lot of controversy about this.
About so many things in life.
Sure are, yeah.
And probably the truth is somewhere in the middle and maybe individualized. But I think this is great. I think you found my buddy.
Yeah, this is from the New York Times, and they talked to several different doctors, but the doctors at Cornell University report that drinking distilled water is safe to drink and does not leach minerals, which is one of the big complaints, that it does leach minerals out of you.
And that's kind of been, it's like once you've been taught something for a long period of time, people just repeat it.
Yeah.
But when they don't go down the rabbit hole and find out that it does leach minerals, it leaches the minerals we don't need.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many minerals in our body
Yeah.
that are creating calcifications that perhaps we need that kind of a cleaning.
And the other thing is too, of course, distilled water gives us a little bit of a boost to a response from your body, because it is higher in acid, which means that your body is going to try to normalize itself. So this is the little boost that your body needs to actually produce more acid to get your stomach in a better system.
Yeah, it may actually help for people in producing hydrochloric acid, which I think we want to talk about a little bit. But where you got this article is from the website Aquarius, the Water Barrier.
Great site.
Now, this is Andrew Norton Weber's site, and some people may find his research a little controversial, but he's very interesting to listen to his podcast where he talks. His philosophy is that distilled water is the water. He's on that side of the fence that is the only water we should be drinking.
Right.
He explains that fruits and vegetables are distilled waters. And he explains that our body is actually a distillery and that urine therapy is something that he's a big proponent of.
Right.
In any case, I think he's got some great articles that if you visit Aquarius, the Water Barrier, you might see distilled water kills bladder cancer cells as effectively as chemotherapy. So let's just take a look at this. Having right now not even read that article. You know, bladder, these little tubules are so susceptible to irritation from hard minerals, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
So it could very well be that the distilled water is a disinfectant. It creates again, distilled water has that positive charge, or it attracts positively charged items.
Attracts positive.
Yes, exactly. So I really do think that there's a lot of good to understanding that what we need is pure water, and you can have pure water that is purified by mechanical means, different filtration, and you can purify water for sure with distilled water. But the key thing is we want to stay away from these waters that are carrying the 25,000 toxic chemicals that we see in these cheap plastic water bottles. I was talking last night, when do you remember bottled water being something that was an industry? When I was a kid, I don't remember bottled water.
No, it wasn't, of course.
I mean, we had bottled Cokes and all that.
And we had better water in our system as far as coming from the tap. In those days was probably a lot better, coming straight from pristine rivers and lakes and streams.
Right, local water systems, and maybe we didn't have all those chemicals that we're adding to the water that that's a big distraction.
Yeah, and I
here
read
today.
a article the other day. They're talking about the world's oceans, how the acidity is rising in the oceans, and that, of course, every fish is polluted with PCBs and mercury. You know, we do have a problem with all these things being in our food, being in our water, being in our air. So we want to be able to get rid of these things, and I think drinking distilled water is one of those things that'll put you at an advantage instead of a disadvantage. And that's my personal opinion. Like I've been drinking it about 50 years. Certainly no problems with kidneys or lack of minerals and things like that as far as I know. All the tests keep coming out positive every 5 years. My hair isn't turning white. One of the signs of people that are highly toxic is your hair grows really white. It doesn't even get to gray. It just kind of loses everything. And I feel that, because my hair seems to be getting more and more color all the time, even though there's gray coming into it, I think that's a good sign. Also, skin and how you feel, all those things have a place in it.
Yeah, I think that you have to find out what resonates with you. But I want to read. Can I just real quickly read a couple of the headlines from Andrew Norton Weber's? So maybe you might want to visit Aquarius, the water barrier, and again, that's how we learn. On this show, we share different viewpoints, and then you have to see what works best for you. The ancient Sumerian word for physician is azu, which means one who knows water. Isn't that interesting?
Very
So the ancient Sumerian physicians were known as those that know water, and after all, with us being mostly
90%
cells,
water,
yeah. Exactly. And the New York Times engineers suggest distilled water be produced in mass quantities and piped into all New York City. That's interesting. And there's a very interesting article, too, about you are the light in the water. And I think that's what I'm very interested in us understanding, that water is a carrier of information. It's a powerful healing agent. Homeopathic vibrational frequency medicine uses water as a carrier and as an excellent deliverer of these frequencies. So, yeah, enjoy that site. I think it'll provide some good information to people.
Yeah, so this is a good way for you to explore on your own and come to your own conclusions about what you should be doing with water. Certainly a lot of great systems out there. Reverse osmosis has been touted as the end-all. Also, you have the Big Burqa, the Royal Burqa. These are natural filtration systems that even have adaptin to take out the fluoride. You can buy a distiller machine, which I've been looking into. The trouble I find with those things, they make noise in the kitchen. They provide a little bit more heat. Most of them are ugly. But I did find a couple. But things, do your own exploring. We certainly are.
Well, we are at the Healthy Fit Club.
Yeah.
We're also working with a premier researcher in the field of infrared technology. And we now know that when we incorporate the sun's healing energy, and we get some of these filtration things that help to restructure the water, the movement of the vortexing. Now we're getting powerful water. So we have some of that to come soon. But now we got to take a break.
Yeah, so please stick around, folks. The number here is 877-927-6648. You got about 15 seconds before the commercial, so you can pick up some Primal Edge. Look at our new newsletter, which I'll go over a couple of things in that because some real interesting stuff in there. So Paige and I will be right back. Welcome back to the show, folks. Nika and Paige here on Living a Primal Lifestyle. I have a client who has a son that has problems with GERD.
We're seeing more and more of that. Young kids have
Yeah, certainly. And I went through that with my wife when we first started this process of living a primal lifestyle, going into a ketogenic type diet and eating a lot more fat than we were used to.
Eliminating the inflammatory grains that are inflaming the
definitely.
tract.
So his problem is it's pretty drastic because the esophagus has withered away, the opening to the esophagus. And, of course, they're giving him all warnings. And I think they put him on Prilosec, but something stronger than that. So the real costly one, which my wife was on for a long time because the Prilosec had some kind of milk product in it or something.
Well, they're not going to put you on Prilosec because that's over the counter.
Yeah,
They're going to put you on the prescription one because, remember, this is Dr. Marshall calls the anti-acid market the $50 million crime against humanity.
Yeah. So I tried to explain a little bit, and I gave her an article to get some hydrochloric acid to up his acid because contrary to the doctor saying that you have too little acid or too much acid going on, which seems logical because you're feeling the acid. You can burp and all of a sudden you got that acid feeling in there. So naturally you want to dispel that. So
but that acid that you're producing is a lactic acid. It's not the hydrochloric acid, so you're not getting that sterility. So it's sort of a half truth, half lie.
Yeah, because you don't have enough of the great acid to get rid of what you're eating. And anyway, it doesn't go down the chain. Even if you're just eating vegetables, it never gets to the colon because it's rotting in your small intestines.
Exactly.
And in your
you don't digest and you don't disinfect your food, and
so
you
then you're
create
under
problems
stress.
upstream.
Problems downstream, exactly.
Downstream,
so what happens, folks, is that that acid that you're producing from stress and from the food just sitting there rotting, it's kind of sitting on top of the food, and naturally it starts bouncing up against.
Starts bubbling and creating that disintegration. They call that Barrett's esophagus. And so this is the story. If you have acid reflux and you go to a doctor and you're producing lactic acid from lack of stomach acid, you start eroding the esophagus, and your doctor will tell you that you need to be on antacids for the rest of your life.
These blockers.
Again, that is covering up a symptom, like ignoring the idiot light in your car and continuing to drive.
Right.
So the truth is, why are you not producing enough stomach acid, and how do we restore that? So
Exactly.
we're gonna give them some tips, but I think you should give them a little. We did a little Google search just to kind of give you a few
let me just
highlights,
put that up here on
a little
the
highlights of.
And there's a lot of, so using hydrochloric acid for GERD was my Google search because I've already been through the process, and here you get a lot of different things. Of course, the hydrochloric acid is there being sold, but you get along like Chris Kressler, who's a paleo guy, talks about using the hydrochloric acid and how to use it. And there's many sites like this that have that. And this is what I used in the beginning to help my wife.
Right.
And she would lapse. She would go into this and it would work really fine. And then all of a sudden she says, I got the acid again, so maybe I should take my stomach acid reducer. And I said, well, have you been taking your hydrochloric acid? Well, no, I only do that when I'm in problems. I said, well, you have a problem now. Let's take it. Boom. 10, 15, 20 minutes later, the acid feels pretty good. The digestion process starts again, and we went through that a little bit. And of course, you have to increase or decrease on how you feel, and these articles explain all that.
Well, this is a real big training part of when I trained with Dr. Marshall.
Okay.
He says that if it came down to only having one supplement, even over a multivitamin, he would recommend hydrochloric acid. Because of the poor state of our food today, we absolutely must have good disinfection properties. And that's why, one of the reasons, while we're thinking about it, why I'm not real sold on the whole alkaline water, because as soon as it hits the stomach, it should be acidic anyways. But that's a little digression. So it's very important, and you want to learn. So we're going to talk about 10 ways to improve your stomach acid levels for health.
Well, let me go on with this whole situation, because I actually went to the health food store because yesterday was Senior's Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I get 10% off, so that's when I buy the bulk of the stuff that I don't get every week. And so I went by to get my hydrochloric acid. I take a 650 every morning. They didn't have the 650, and sitting there on the shelf was a 250, which I recommended her to get, because that way you can regulate it a little bit more how much you want to take, and there was only one bottle. So I scooped it up, and I gave her a call, and I said, here, I got your bottle for you, and she came over and picked it up. I told her to listen to the show today because we were going to discuss this.
Yes.
So let's go on, because there's, this is one way of getting that hydrochloric acid in there, and this is what you need when you have these problems. But then maybe a year down the line, when you're comfortable with what you're doing, now you come into say, how can I produce this stuff myself?
Well, certainly what I would say is, I don't know how old her son is, but quite frankly, we're seeing more and more of this because of the poor state of our food. I think through vaccination, the whole alimentary canal has been damaged. So it's a lifestyle thing, and stress has a lot to do with it.
Right.
But quite frankly, when you're that young, you really should not. I don't know how old he is. Do you know how old he is?
He's in his teens. So
okay, he should be
producing.
He should be producing the stomach acid of a dog, be able to digest and
no
disinfect
doubt about
his
it, because
food.
he's a healthy guy. He's got great muscle tone, looks good.
So we want to try and help him take that stress off and work on restoring it. So, the most important thing about stomach acid, folks, as I said, is the importance of not just digesting your food, but disinfecting it. And that's, when you hear of people having arthritis, think of the fact that somewhere in digestion they weren't able to disinfect their food, leaky gut happened, and then we had rogue food particles escaping to the blood system.
Right.
And the normal volume of the stomach acid fluid is 20 to 100 milliliters. That ranges in pH from about 1.5 to 3.5. Due to the logarithmic nature of the pH scale, there's a significant difference between a pH of 1.5 and that of 3. So for healthy protein digestion, the pH should be in the range of 1.5 to 2. So if we're constantly neutralizing our stomach acid, we really interfere with our ability to digest protein and break it down into the amino acids. So here, I hope we can see this chart. Yeah, this is 7. This is from Dr. Jocker's site. He's got some good information. 7 major functions of stomach acid, so we want to hit these points. It sterilizes the food.
And that's a really important part of the whole thing.
As I keep saying, if you can, it's important to digest, it's important to disinfect it.
Yeah.
And protein digestion. It's interesting what we do with proteins is we actually take them in, but we have to break them down into amino acids and then rebuild them into proteins to rebuild. So we absolutely need to break it down.
And if you think about the average American that has so much protein going into their system, no wonder we're short on the hydrochloric acid, the stomach acid. We're overeating the protein because that's what we do here.
Yes, number 3 is activating pepsin. Pepsin is crucial to being able to break down these proteins. It's very important, and that this is what's happening a lot of times when we're neutralizing these stomach acids. We're not able to activate pepsin.
Now, what is pepsin a form of the acid itself, or is it a byproduct of the acid?
Well, pepsin is a proteolytic enzyme that is necessary for our body to effectively metabolize protein. So stomach acid activates the pepsin from its inactive form called pepsinogen. Okay? So it's just a process, and if we have the inactive form is pepsinogen, but if we don't get the stomach acid, we don't create pepsin, and then we don't digest our protein. So it's a real
and it's you got to think about it another way too. There's bacteria in your stomach that your hydrochloric acid kind of feeds this bacteria.
No bacteria in our stomach. No,
I'm sorry, in the small intestine.
Yeah. Okay, so 4, we want to activate the intrinsic factor.
Which is?
The intrinsic factor is the stomach acid helps to activate this intrinsic factor, which helps us to make B12.
And we have an intrinsic factor coming up, which is our break.
Oh, okay, so we'll have to take that. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about
5,
how
6,
stomach acid is healthy for you.
We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. We're talking about why stomach acid is good for you. We talked about the importance of using stomach acid to sterilize your food.
Right, and the 7 major function of the stomach acid is what we were on, and the first 3 were sterilizing the food, helping your digestion for protein, activating pepsin, which is an enzyme that's produced when the stomach acid hits.
To help you break down and utilize your protein. And then 4, right before the break, we were talking about activating intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is a glycoprotein that is used to help our bodies use and assimilate vitamin B12. So might we see such an increase in mental disorders, even a lot of memory issues in the older people.
Alzheimer's, you think of?
Are they also on antacids, like so many older people? Are they, even if they're not on antacids, are they experiencing impaired digestion? And
our young people, look, ADD and all these different little brain things always makes me suspect our diet.
Well, I've studied with the Loomis Institute, and getting digestion right at the top of the chain, and that's not just the stomach, it's in the mouth. Digestion begins with saliva and the chewing to signal other processes downstream. So it's really important from the chewing and into the stomach that we get the digestion right. So let's go on
number 5
and talk about number 5, stimulating the delivery of bile and enzymes. Stomach acid helps to stimulate the release of bile from the liver and the gallbladder and digestive enzymes from the pancreas. It's a very beautiful symphony that we have.
And a lot of people can feel this. You can feel a little squirting right by your
gallbladder. And the gallbladder is basically a sac that stores the bile.
It just squirts it, and squirts it in really high concentrations. So when you feel that, smile.
And what's important for producing stomach acid, and this is a little bit of the situation going on with your client's son, is closing the esophageal sphincter. Stomach acid is an important trigger for the contraction of the esophageal sphincter just above the stomach to protect that soft, delicate tissue of the esophagus from the harsh acids in the stomach. So when you're producing hydrochloric acid, your esophageal sphincter is going to work well. When you're not producing hydrochloric acid and you're harvesting or creating lactic acid as a result, where does the lactic acid come from, you're asking? Lactic acid comes from fermentation, rotting of your food, because there's no stomach acid to break it down.
Yeah, and any stress that you have can contribute to it.
It's going to contribute to it, correct.
Another thing, too, is that opening of the sphincter is a very soft, sensitive area. So no wonder you feel it immediately when that is. And it really tells you that you have a problem. The problem is that we're misidentifying the problem.
So the stomach acid helps us close the esophageal sphincter at the top, but it's important for opening the pyloric sphincter, which is how, when the stomach acid has made its action on your foodstuff, this helps to move the food, to move from the stomach to the small intestine, where hopefully it has been properly disinfected and digested, so that the absorption can happen in the small
I like
intestine.
the way he puts it, the problem with low stomach acid: when the body is unable to produce enough stomach acid, it is unable to digest protein molecules and key minerals. These partially digested protein molecules get into small intestines, create a significant stress on the pancreas to produce adequate enzymes to metabolize the protein.
That's right there.
Effectively.
One of the reasons that a lot of people say that death comes when we've run out of pancreatic enzymes. Pancreatic enzymes are much more than our ability to digest sugars. They're basically the enzymes that enzymes do work, that help us heal, to do repair. So when we don't get proper digestion at the stomach level, we're really putting a lot of stress on our pancreas to produce enzymes that break down these foreign foodstuffs.
Yeah, and now if you have these large protein molecules, because a lot of protein has larger molecules, their incomplete digestion irritates the gut lining, and of course this leads to the leaky gut syndrome, which I had for most of my life until I stopped eating
Well, you're
the
not
wrong
alone,
proteins.
Nico, as
no,
I
it's,
say.
it's rampant.
As that's my biggest, I could run my whole coaching practice off of betaine HCl,
Yeah.
And proper
true.
digestion. Enzymes and digestions, and enzymes aren't even really supplements, they're catalysts for work.
Right. So when we digest our food poorly, it leads to increased inflammation activity, which depletes key minerals and antioxidants throughout the body. The mineral depletion leads to an ability to form stomach acid, and the vicious circle of poor digestion and chronic inflammation continues.
Yeah, so maybe show this chart, because I think this will show up well in our telestrator. So let's talk about this vicious circle that people find themselves in. You have a low stomach acid. As a result of low stomach acid, you have poor digestion. So think about it, folks. People who don't take antacids, and then people that do take it, they've still got the same problem.
Yes.
And so as a result of poor digestion, you do not get your minerals. You can't break down your fats. You can't get your minerals. You can't break down your protein to amino acids. As a result of this protein and mineral deficiency, your blood remains acidic. And as a result of the acidic blood, we get insufficient nutrients to produce the stomach acid again, and as a result you get poor digestion. So this vicious circle is something that we really want to work on. So let's talk about some of the signs that you may have experienced to tell you whether or not you have low stomach acid. Believe it or not, many people don't realize they do, and they go asymptomatic.
Right.
They don't realize that those achy joints are a result of the fact that they don't digest their food.
Yes.
Cataracts in their eyes, this kind of a thing. There's a lot of things.
And we
tied
make
to
a
it.
joke out of some of these things, like the gas and the belching. I mean, that's a joke among guys in their cars, and belching and passing gas.
Yeah, within 60 minutes, there's some sign that some digestion's not going right,
Yeah.
because that's usually still stomach time.
Sure.
Acid reflux, we talk
That's
about
the
this
most
is most
common.
commonly caused by
Right.
low stomach acid, not too much. Bloating and cramping. This gas produced from the bacterial fermentation in the stomach produces this. Again, it typically comes on within an hour of eating. So if your symptoms are big within an hour, it's more stomach related.
Yeah.
Chronic
Common-
bad,
yeah, this is a
chronic
huge
bad
one.
breath. This is due to the metabolites produced through bacterial fermentation in the stomach. Another sign that you don't have enough stomach acid will be plaque on your teeth. Typically, you'll see people that are heavy grain eaters get more plaque on their teeth. When you're primal, you
And
don't
this
get plaque.
causes bad breath also. So chronic bad breath is another sign. And if I find that looking at it from a primal point of view, when you get undigested food in your stool, and you're looking at it, you notice animals when they poop. They're looking at it, they're smelling it, they want to find out what's going on in their bodies. Automatically, and even their partners We don't do that, you know. So
I do.
Well, I know you do. You're Primal. And I do too. And looking in the toilet, that's one of the things I always do. And if it's too loose or there's chunks of food in there, you've got a real problem there, folks. So you need to really pay attention to this.
Well, you can tell up by the transit time of how well your bowel's moving, but it's true. You want to kind of see how are you assimilating your food. So
and
let's
this
go
is a
on.
big one for number 7 here.
Aversion to meat. Yeah, when you start hearing, particularly I hear my older clients say, I really don't want to eat meat. Well, that's right. Your body is
Can't digest it.
Your body is telling you, I can't digest this, so I don't want to eat it.
So the health food crowd would say, oh, that's a sign you need to be a vegetarian.
Well, it's a sign that you need to better digest your food.
That's exactly
and as
right.
Dr. Marshall says, pretty much everyone over the age of 35 or 40 in this country, due to the poor state of our food, needs to be taking a hydrochloric acid supplement after meals.
Yeah, and we need to do something right now. We need to take a break. So I'd like to remind people, please pick up my Health Signals newsletter. I've got a slew of stuff in here. I don't have time to go over it, but I'm telling you, there's some real interesting things about the electric universe in here and how mountains are formed and different things that you may see out
Good
west
stuff.
and different things, and all the things about wheat that we talked about, so you can dig deeper. So please pick that up. And Paige and I'll be right back. The number here is 877-927-6648. Welcome back, folks, and we're talking about hydrochloric acid and how your stomach gets into problems, and we're showing some signs, and we have 12 signs that you have low stomach acid, and number 7 was the aversion to meat. So you have people say, you know, this doesn't really taste good. It's an indication that you're not able to digest and disinfect this.
That's exactly right. And being, you know, and just feeling tired in general.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, regardless of what you eat, is a sign that your digestive system is just utilizing every resource it has, and you really should take that as a clue that you have poor digestion.
Yeah. Then now the next one is really interesting because you're feeling full, and at the same time you're still hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of shows you that the body's not getting the nutrients because it's not able to digest.
That's the same thing as the obesity.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people continue to have the cravings. You know, cravings are a sign that your body wants something that it's not getting.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when we're making poor food choices and creating obesity, then we're not going to be able to you know, get the nutrients we want, and we're going to suffer.
Yeah.
Chronic anemia, this is something I think it's very interesting because we're seeing more and more of these cases of people that are running anemic, and if you're having excessive bleeding, you are consuming enough iron in your diet, yet you still have a non-responsive anemia. I think that's a sign that the digestive system is not able to get what it needs from the food. Correct.
Yeah. And other signs are like weak fingernails and also frequent nausea. You get nauseous. Of course, it's another sign that you're not digesting things. I mean, that's pretty. The weak fingernails, of course, you're not getting the calcium. Excuse me. So again, it all boils down to digestion.
And I see so much of this in people as they get older, Nico. You know, and you know, here you are, you know, in your 70s, and you're not experiencing these things because you're honoring a primal diet. And I really believe that you're really much more prone to food poisoning if you can't properly disinfect your food.
Yeah.
So think of stomach acid as a way to protect yourself from food poisoning.
And remember that I had most of these symptoms, and at a real low level, where my wife had it at a real high level. So we were both in the same boat. I had the leaky gut symptoms, not feeling well on high-stress days. So my parents were right. You have a weak stomach, and you get nervous, and then you have more problems. And then I'd stay home from school. It wasn't just that I didn't want to do the test.
Well, here's a tip too. We're going to show you a little test that you can do at home. You know, you can go to your doctors and they do a test that, you know, well, actually most doctors probably wouldn't do it. But
No, they just put you on the drug.
Yeah, it's easier for them. But I mean, if you really ask, they can do a test too. It begins with an H. I can't remember what it is, but it's a test where they use hydrochloric acid and test to see what your levels are, and it's a little bit of a process. But the baking soda stomach acid test is very easy to do. We got it up here on the telestrator. You know, you can mix a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda in 4 to 6 ounces of cold water first thing in the morning before eating or drinking anything. And you want to drink this baking soda solution. And then you want to see how long it takes for a burp or a belch to come about. Go up to 5 minutes. If you have not burped or belched within 5 minutes, then it would be a sign of insufficient stomach acid production.
If
So
you burp right away, it's a sign that you're healthy.
that's a good point. So you want to see if you can burp with drinking the baking. So
Now,
that's a great way to see.
If you've ever seen some old films on going to the Arab states and then eating or drinking with the Arabs, then the first thing that they always do to show them that the food is good and it's digesting properly, everybody belches.
Yeah,
and we think that's a rude thing. Of course, it's kind of the thing that my mother's expression always had, where in Holland, instead of saying "oh," we say "ach."
Oh.
Sounds completely different and it gives you a different reaction. If I say "ach" to you all the time, you're going, what the heck is this guy doing?
Right.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. So if you're belching, there's a sign over there. I don't know what it is, a sign. I mean, we've got lots of signs over there now. But
Now, true, if you're doing this test early and repeated belching may be due to excessive stomach acid, but don't confuse the small little burps from swallowing air when drinking the solution. Any belching after 3 minutes is an indication of low stomach acid. So if it takes you after 3 minutes to start belching, then you're kind of on the low side. So what do? You start supplementing your hydrochloric acid, and you want to start looking at the foods you're eating that might be damaging that gut lining. This is a test you can do too, the betaine HCl challenge. To perform this test, you want to buy some betaine HCl with pepsin. They recommend,
betaine just means the process of how they're getting the hydrochloric acid.
Well, betaine means it's derived from beets.
Right.
And that's
right.
what you want. You want non-GMO organic beets. I use Premier's. This article uses Acid Prozyme as a brand, but I like Premier's
Yeah, I use
HCl.
Solaray. There's a bunch of really good ones out
Eat
there.
a high-protein meal of at least 6 ounces of meat. You can have veggies too, but no starches, notice. You want to eat meat and veggies. And in the middle of the meal, never in the beginning, take the one betaine HCl pill. Finish the meal and observe what you notice. If you don't notice anything, it's most likely you have low stomach acids, and this is kind of a scary thing because this is the case with most people.
Yeah.
And if you notice indigestion, if you notice a slight burning or warmth in your stomach, or heaviness in your chest, this is a sign that you have adequate stomach levels. So this is how you figure out how many betaine HCl capsules you need to be taking.
You get that little burning sensation when you
And then you cut back.
You cut back a little bit. If you still feel kind of problems and you feel that little burp thing going on, then you may want to take a little bit more. And you'll figure it out. It's pretty easy. You just listen to your body, and it works really well. And I've talked to dozens of people about this over the last 8 years.
Don't be surprised if many of you will need to take multiple HCl capsules.
Yeah.
And
Definitely,
and
I recommend starting with the 250 milligram.
I think just go to the 650.
650?
I think that's kind of almost.
I think you can regulate it a little bit more. In the beginning, Ellen was a lot more sensitive to the HCl, and then she had to slowly increase it. So if she took the 650, it would have been too much for her.
And maybe you're right. Maybe that would be good for people coming off of proton pump inhibitors, actually, because they've got to really balance those two acid levels.
So that's why I recommend the 250. You can, you don't have to cut the capsules in back. And I also recommend the capsules instead of the pills, because the pill form is a little bit harder for people already having problems swallowing, the sphincters damaged.
For the most part, capsules and caplets. Capsules are better. Caplets or pressed tablets are not well digested.
Right.
So keep in mind that this is a way to help make sure you have enough hydrochloric acid so that you can not just digest your food, but disinfect it. And really, regardless of your age, as we were learning from Nico, he's got a client whose son is young and experiencing this. Again, these pharmaceutical antacids are considered by many in the natural health world to be crimes against humanity because we're interfering with our digestion and our disinfection of our food. It's aging because if we can't cleave the minerals, if we can't cleave the nutrition out of our food, then we become malnutrition.
Yeah.
And we even see obesity coming about with people who have acid issues because they're not digesting their foods. The body's going to start storing fat.
Exactly.
So it's just a real mess.
So to kind of get the rest of this, there's different ways you can improve your stomach acid, and after the break we'll go into these different ways of
Nature
supplementing
has a solution.
They do. We
Yes.
have a solution, and so does nature. So we'll be right back, folks. So please pick up my Health Signals newsletter, folks. Great articles in here. Just some of the stuff that you'll find in here will be the stuff about the wheat, but also 6-step liver cleanse, and this is really gives you lots and lots of information how to detox. So you want to look that up. So Paige and I will be back.
Welcome back. So let's talk some more about what you can do naturally to really help improve your stomach acid, because there's a lot of things in nature that will encourage your stomach to behave the way that it is designed, so we can help digest our food. And this not only will help you digest and disinfect your food, but absorb the nutrients more effectively. One of the ways you can do it is use liquid nutrition through the day. You can take Primal Edge, which has a lot of nutrition ready, cell ready for you. But you can also look at smoothies and things like
The
this.
protein shakes with the natural whey in it, adding some fat, MCT oil, adding some bone broth type of things, the gelatin. Those things are really good.
And if you have determined, like most people will find out that is the case for most everyone, is if you have low HCl, it is wise to have 1 or 2 protein shakes. It might be gelatin type protein, it might be a combination of whey, because you seriously have not been for some time digesting your proteins. You need those amino acids. Use ginger.
Yeah, my wife loves ginger, and it always seems to soothe her stomach, so I think this makes a lot of sense.
Ginger improves digestive juices, and it's part of a group of herbs called carminative. So that's like peppermint, anise, cardamom. These all encourage the stomach to perform the way it should, the whole digestive system.
The other thing is throughout the day you need to super hydrate, so you need to drink water. Distilled water is what we're recommending, or really good purified water. But with your meals, you don't want to drink anything.
Well, and there's some people that argue about that, but I think that's a great point, because we don't want to dilute our digestive acid, especially if we have a problem. But we are hydroelectric beings, and we need that hydration to function electrically. And using lemon and apple cider vinegar is a great way to stimulate your own digestive fire. The lemon and the apple cider vinegar stimulate digestive, and it's been used for eons as an aperitif.
And people who have a low problem with this, maybe apple cider vinegar by itself can solve it for many people.
For a lot of people, this actually helps to restore that
but people with chronic problem already having the sphincter melted away in a sense that won't do it. You'll need to go through the whole regime.
I like this one. Eat your protein at the beginning of the meal. This reminds me, I have some friends that are French. They're French. And they do not deliver the salad as an appetizer.
It's always at the end of the meal.
It's at the end of the meal.
Well, it makes sense. If you
the roughage will push out the
If you look at the stomach lining, and here we have the stomach, you see the small intestines are first after the stomach, which is where the animal food goes, and to be sterilized and digested. You get to the colon, which is the large large intestines later on, and this is where the food. And a lot of people get mixed up because it says large intestines, because there's more volume to your vegetables and fruits and things like that. They expand more, so they need a little bit more room, not because we're supposed to be vegetarians, although you can do this vegetarian-wise if you wish to. So just a little comment there. The other thing is, of course, using fermented vegetables and fruits, even if you wanted to.
Well, the fermented drinks such as apple cider vinegar, coconut water, kefir, and lemon water, even though it's not fermented, they have a high amount of organic acids. And these have an antimicrobial effect, so they're a cleansing effect. And we want to keep in mind that the H. pylori bacteria is really a dangerous bacteria implicated in a lot of diseases that gets into the system. And, we see it when there's people who have low stomach acid. Yeah,
and so if you're using these fermented drinks or fermented vegetables, you're going to be a step ahead. It's kind of nice because when you start drinking these, they feel kind of weird at first, and then as you get used to drinking these, they become something that you really want.
And the last thing, folks, is try not to eat unless you are relaxed. Stress and eating don't go well. We don't digest our food, and the sympathetic nervous system takes over, and nothing works the way it should.
Don't eat in heavy traffic.
Yeah, don't eat in traffic. Don't eat while you're watching the crazy news. So take some time and shut things off and enjoy your food and think about digesting it. But we've got to go.
Thanks a lot for sticking around.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
You're watching Tiger TV.